And Dr. Heather Morrison says there are still too many people traveling for non-essential reasons in and out of the province. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on Compass. There are 2 new cases of COVID-19 on Prince Edward Island. That brings our total number of cases to 11. Here's what we know about these new ones announced just a couple of hours ago. They are both in Prince County. They are women, one in her 20s and one in her 50s. Both women were traveling internationally and are at home and self-isolating. They are both doing well, and officials are now tracing people who have come into contact with them and how they traveled back to the island. Well, we also got more information today on what's happening with island schools. They are going to be closed until May. Our Nicole Williams is in our studio again with us tonight live and has more details for us. Nicole.
Yeah, Louise, we were told today that schools will be closed to in-person learning until at least May the 11th. That will be something they will reevaluate closer to that date, but you'll remember that schools were originally supposed to reopen as of April the 6th. So right now, the province and the public schools branch is exploring exactly what this will now look like for students in terms of online learning resources, in terms of the curriculum to suit that. And one of the big challenges we're told is that we're trying to get online resources to students living in rural PEI that may not actually have a great internet connection. Here's what Premier Dennis King had to say.
What we're really trying to figure out is what is the most efficient and productive way to roll out some type of home-based distance learning, recognizing that there are significant challenges with that depending on where you live. So through the public schools branches, both English and French, through our professionals at Education and Lifelong Learning, and with the assistance of teachers, we're really trying to cover all aspects of that. We're trying to, as much as we can, individualize some of the learning plans as well.
So the province says that we can expect some details on what exactly all that will look like in the days and week ahead. And we also learned that daycares are lumped in with that they won't be opening until at least May the 11th as well. And also today that all non-essential businesses and non-essential government services will be closed indefinitely.
And Dr. Morrison also, Nicole, added some new restrictions on the Confederation Bridge. What exactly are those?
Yeah, we were told today that there is only going to be essential travel going over the bridge, that anything non-essential is off limits. They're saying that they're still seeing too many people going on and off the bridge for personal reasons, and that they should be only going across the bridge if it's a necessity. Here's Dr. Heather Morrison.
Now, of course, islanders can leave and come back for out-of-province medical appointments. Healthy workers in the trade and transportation sector who are essential for the movement of goods and people across the border, such as truck drivers. Healthy healthcare workers and other essential workers commuting for work. And of course, on compassionate grounds.
And she later clarified that it's open to people who also still need to come home. They're not closing it, and there are no enforcement rules stopping people from going to the bridge. And the province says that that will remain the case for now, but that they are going to trust islanders will only travel if it's necessary.
What about the emergency clinic, Nicole? That's expected to be opening soon. What did we hear on that today?
Yeah, so we know that this emergency clinic is expected to open shortly, actually as early as tomorrow, that it's actually almost set up and near completion. Again, there will be drive-through testing and that fever and cough clinic that will be open 7 days a week. We're told that islanders can access that by appointment only, and there will be a similar clinic, a similar fever and cough clinic set up in Summerside, and we're expecting to find out more details about that in the days ahead as well.
All right, thanks for this update, Nicole. Nicole Williams reporting live for us in studio tonight. Numbers for Prince Edward Island. There have been 622 tests done in total. 444 of them are negative. 11 are positive, as we've said, and we're still waiting for results on 169 tests. One case has recovered. And testing is ramping up here on PEI. Dr. Morrison says certain people showing symptoms of COVID-19 will now be swabbed regardless of their travel history. And that includes people admitted to hospital with severe respiratory issues and healthcare workers who have symptoms like a cough or fever. All of the positive cases on PEI so far have been associated with international travel. The province is handling dozens of complaints about islanders who are not self-isolating or following the rules for physical distancing. Health PEI says it's had more than 70 complaints about people who are supposed to self-isolate and are not, and complaints about workplace conditions as well, mostly from employees. Now, so far, severe measures have not been taken and no one has been fined.
We are certainly starting to follow up, or have been following up, some of those concerns coming in, and they range from, for instance, an employee who may be concerned that a fellow employee or their boss may have returned from travel and may not be self-isolating, and they are concerned about their own safety and the health and safety of other people in the building or in the business. So those are being followed up and as best we can.
Dr. Morrison also says today that there is a scam going around for people surrounding tests and the results. It's an email phishing scam with false information in it. And she says anyone who has been tested will be contacted personally by telephone. Dr. Morrison also says she's getting a lot of questions about people coming to PEI to move into their cottages. Her message there is that those people need to make sure there is someone on PEI to support them and to help them while they are in those 14 days of self-isolation. If they don't have someone like that, then they should not come. Well, let's take a closer look now at Island nursing homes. Now, they aren't allowing visitors, and they're taking many more measures to make sure residents and staff members stay safe. Travis Kingdon has more.
Visits to provincially run long-term care facilities on the island stopped 2 weeks ago, and at some privately run seniors' homes on the island, they stopped even before that. And since then, a number of steps have been taken to make sure that those buildings are as safe as possible. Jason Lee, CEO of PEI Seniors Homes, says homes have ramped up cleaning protocols, making sure that doorknobs and light switches are regularly sanitized. Staff are also being asked to come straight to work, not stopping anywhere in between that could expose them to the virus. Social distancing is also a top priority, something that everyone has been trying to get used to.
It would not be unusual to have 30, 40, 50 residents in our activity space enjoying that event or activity. That, of course, has had to stop. We're still having small gatherings, 5, 6 residents at a time, provided that we can give everybody the 2 meters of space.
Similar precautions are being taken in provincially run homes. Staff there are starting to do some non-urgent medical care on site when they can to limit residents from traveling outside of the home, and are monitoring for symptoms on a daily basis. Now, long-term care facilities on the island have also started to take in patients from the hospital in order to move the hospital down to a 75% occupancy rate. Now, the province weren't able to tell us just how many people have been moved so far, but Lee says he's expecting 4 to be transferred to his homes in the coming days, and says if the number of cases continues to rise on the island, he expects more will come. Travis Kingdon, CBC News, Charlottetown.
The price of gas on PEI has dropped again. We haven't seen prices like these in a very long time. A litre is down 3.6 cents. That means the maximum price for self-serve unleaded is 72 cents a litre. The price has dropped almost 40 cents a litre in the last 3 weeks. The next scheduled adjustment is next Friday. Red Shores has announced layoffs due to COVID-19. Both the Charlottetown and Summerside locations are closed, and 220 casual, part-time and full-time employees are done working until further notice. Atlantic Lotto says all affected employees will be subject to recall when normal operations resume. Other island companies have had layoffs as well. Last week, the Murphy Hospitality Group announced it was laying off about 200 employees on PEI. And there are calls tonight for a stop to all community fundraising and lottery games until the pandemic ends. A store owner in Western PEI is worried, and his MP is backing him up. Steve Bruce has more.
Well, the store owner we're talking about here is Pat Murphy. He owns the Irving and Quickway in Alberton, and he says there's just been too many people showing up at his store lately buying lottery tickets at a time when everyone's being told to only go out to buy the essentials. Have a listen to this.
A lot of people coming in to sign up for or buy lottery tickets and sign up for 50-50 draws when there's probably really no need for it. doesn't mean they're not essentials, right? A lot more transactions and a lot more opportunity to contract the virus than if those draws weren't happening.
Now, Murphy says he has shared his concerns with PEI public health officials and with his MP, Liberal Bobby Morrissey. Well, for Morrissey's part, he says he shares those concerns and he thinks community fundraising and lottery draws need to stop. But he says his federal government really has no power to do anything about it, that would be up to the provinces and the regional lottery corporations the provinces own. PEI's chief public health officer did address this issue on Tuesday.
Community fundraisers and lotteries should only be done online.
But at this point, that's only a recommendation, and the Atlantic Lottery Corporation, which is owned by the 4 Atlantic provinces, says at this stage it has no plans to stop its games and lotto draws, which can be entered at stores and online. In an email to CBC, an ALC spokesperson said, quote, "At this time, we are continuing to offer lottery product sales to our players through our retail partners who remain open and choose to sell lottery. We are encouraging all players to consider their health and the health of others when attending any retailer." Now, some stores, including those owned by Loblaws like Shoppers Drug Mart, have decided on their own to stop selling lottery tickets. But Pat Murphy says from his perspective, that won't solve the problem. That if he stops selling tickets, that will just lead to bigger crowds at stores that continue to sell them. He says, in his opinion, the only solution is for provincial governments to step in and ban all lottery draws until this pandemic is over. Steve Bruce, CBC News, Meadowbank.
We have a correction for you this evening. Last night, we reported that the PEI Fishermen's Association was aiming to begin the spring lobster season on May 1st. In fact, it has not yet made any final decision with respect to the spring season. We also reported the association had recent closed-door meetings on this issue. In fact, the association says it did not, and it adds all its meetings are being held remotely due to COVID-19. CBC News regrets the error.
Well, enough snow fell last night that a lot of Islanders had to do some shoveling this morning. Didn't feel very spring-like, but the good news, no snow in the forecast for the weekend. In fact, aside from some brisk winds for your Saturday morning, looking pretty nice. I'll be back with all of the sunny and fairly mild details for your weekend forecast coming up.
Preparing hospitals for COVID-19 has meant a lot of movement of patients on PEI. In a news briefing earlier this week, Health PEI's Chief of Nursing, Marian Dowling, said some mental health and addiction staff and services have been shuffled around among the Unit 9 psychiatric ward at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Hillsborough Hospital, and the addictions facility in Mount Herbert. Dr. Heather Kaiser is the Chief of Mental Health and Addiction Services on PEI and joins me via FaceTime. Thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
No problem, Louise.
So, Dr. Kaiser, what has your role been in the movement of patients?
My colleagues, the psychiatrists on the inpatient unit in Unit 9 at QEH, and the inpatient psychiatrist in Summerside, as well as the inpatient psychiatrist at Hillsborough Hospital, all work together to move patients safely. So we discharged as many patients as we could safely with plans to go into the community, those who were ready, and those who were too ill to go out to be discharged home, we moved and centralized their care, allowing us to open up 20 beds at QEH to deal with the COVID crisis. The other piece that was done was to move patients who were ready to be placed in the community but still didn't have housing and needed some psychiatric care, so lower risk patients. We moved them to the beds at PATF, the transition unit there. It was actually a Herculean effort on the part of our team, both the psychiatrists, but also the nurses and all the organizers and administrators. And we were able to actually move 47 patients in 4 days, allowing 10 more patients to be moved into a more safe location at QEH. So that happened in 4 days last week. So understandably, people would have been surprised and it would have been hard to understand out of the gate.
What supports are in place now or are being added now that we find ourselves doing things like this, everything virtually without seeing people face to face?
Today, I have more psychiatrists available to me to help provide virtual service to patients than I've ever had before. We have more psychiatric support than we've ever had before in Prince Edward Island, and it's easy to get to receive it virtually, or it will be within the next little while. Last week, we saw the transition unit at Mount Herbert close. It's an overnight facility. It was the best place already set up to be able to take the psychiatric patients who were still required to be in hospital. And the patients who were discharged from the transition unit all were given follow-up plans and safety plans. And so there was no one that was discharged who wasn't provided with a plan. But we do recognize that that was a service that was quite important to our system. And certainly we have a number of patients in our population of PEI who do struggle with addiction issues. And we've done quite a bit of background work and behind the scenes to try and provide additional supports to them. I think it's been quite challenging. So I've been given liberty to announce that we are now in the development of a transition day program that patients will be able to come to. It will not be near the hospitals. But it will be available to patients. It'll be large enough to provide adequate social distancing, and it will be able to provide support to these patients who previously we would have kept at the transition unit. I really wanted to highlight to our patients, to all Islanders, that certainly addiction services are important. Patients who are ready to detox should be getting detoxed. But remember in the COVID crisis that self-isolation, if it's required because you've tested positive or you've come from out of province or out of country, that takes precedence. It is very important that you stay in self-isolation for 14 days before you seek detox services.
Really appreciate your time, Dr. Kaiser. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
And as we go to break, a live look outside our studio in Charlottetown on this Friday night. Jay's full forecast is coming up after this break. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Mitch Cormier. Coming up Monday on Island Morning, a number of things have had to change because of COVID-19, including a trip involving Canada's veterans returning to the Netherlands. That story coming up Monday on 96.1 FM.
Welcome back. Well, we had backyard rink weather. Now we just have backyard weather in Jay's backyard. Jay's here now. Not a bad looking weekend ahead, Jay.
No, lots of sunshine. I'm actually hoping to spend some time out on the back deck this weekend. I'm calling this, by the way, the Winslow Weather Bureau, Louise. And I know we have mutual friends who live on my street. They call this neighborhood West Royalty. But I think for all the Winslowites or Winslonians, I don't even know. I'm sure somebody will tweet me and let me know. Winslow getting some love tonight on Compass from the Weather Bureau. All right, let's take a look at some snowfall totals from last night. We did see a significant amount of snow falling over eastern areas. As expected, not that much really fell up west. You can see about 3 centimeters in Foxley River and Wellington. I know there was a bit more in Summerside. No unofficial volunteer observations from there, unfortunately. And a lot less volunteer observations than I would typically see after a snowfall event like this. Our furthest east that I can see would be Glencoe or Vernon River, and that was at 14 centimeters. So Eastern Kings would not be shocked if you saw more than 15 centimeters. And I know Charlottetown, I did not expect us to get up above the 10 centimeter mark, and we did indeed top 10 centimeters, and that was after the steady snow wrapped up by 8 a.m. this morning. Just light flurries, not much additional accumulation today. All right, we are still looking at some scattered flurries falling across the island. Nothing too heavy, and the good news is that area of low pressure resulting in the flurries will continue to exit to our east. We've got a nice big blue H approaching from the west. That's a ridge of high pressure that'll make things clear up through the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. We'll start out with maybe just a few clouds, but more sun than cloud. Some cooler temperatures and a gusty northwest wind. So we'll be a bit of a wind chill early Saturday morning. But as we get into the afternoon, those winds will still be brisk but easing. That sunshine will be almost uninterrupted. It's going to be a gorgeous one with temperatures up low to mid single digits, and that ridge of high pressure will be sticking around for most of Sunday. Those clouds holding off until very late afternoon, early evening. They'll start to build in from the west. So we have a nice weekend of sunshine and milder temperatures. Just a bit below the freezing mark over western PEI tonight, clearing conditions. Lots of sunshine tomorrow, temperatures between +1 and +3. As we slide our weather map to show more of Queens and Kings counties, tonight around -1 to -2 for those overnight temperatures. May dip a little bit further by mid-morning. Bit of a wind chill in the morning with some gusty winds out of the northwest to about 50 kilometers per hour. Those winds down to the 20 to 40K range by early afternoon, and then easing further by late afternoon and really dropping off into tomorrow night. Look at those sunshine and warm temperatures, though, as you look at your weather conditions across the eastern half of the island. Temperatures tomorrow between +1 and +4. Similar range of daytime highs for your Sunday as well, more sun than cloud. Not a lot of sunshine, unfortunately, in that long-range forecast. We do get some milder temperatures, though, towards the end of the week, but we could be seeing some light snow as early as Monday. Louise?
Thank you very much, Jay. Good to see you. Have a great weekend. All right, well, the kids might not be complaining yet about being out of school, but their teachers are sure missing them. This video was sent out by staff at Queen Charlotte Intermediate School in Charlottetown. Teachers reaching out virtually to their students at home. A reminder that today we learned that classes are now suspended, at least to this point anyway, until May 11th. So thank you to Queen Charlotte. We're back after this break.
Chapter 7, Anne says her prayers.
That's Island singer-songwriter Catherine McClellan, and yes, she's reading Anne of Green Gables. Members of the band The East Pointers are posting the videos on their Facebook page every night, and guest readers are continuing the story one chapter at a time. The project is called Andemic, a play on the word pandemic for these times. And thank you for joining us tonight for Compass. The CBC's Vashi Kapelos is up next in Ottawa with Power and Politics, and we'll see you back here Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night, PEI.